and enjoyed the surge of anticipation filling him. Ice crystals sparkled along the ground, promising winter soon. His men took their cue from him, climbing into their saddles. The horses shifted, but caught the spark of excitement running through all the Munro retainers. The animals began to paw at the ground, eager to depart. Rolfe turned and reached up to tug on the corner of his bonnet in respect. Buchanan was the new laird of the Mackay, and every window and archer slot had members of his clan watching to see how Rolfe treated him. Rolfe knew what it was like to carve out his place, one cut at a time. Just being born of the right bloodline didn't ensure anything, not in the Highlands. Here strength was a factor, as was the ability to do business. Rolfe cleared the gate and rode down past the church where Furlan's half-brother was resting with his wife. Malcolm hadn't been the eldest, and yet he'd wrestled the lairdship away from Furlan. Rolfe grinned, though. Furlan had prevailed in the end. Cora was part of that success. Her nature would also ensure Furlan didn't grow too bored with his position. Rolfe grinned and leaned down low over the neck of his horse. It had been too long since he'd had a reason to ride out of his father's stronghold. Far too long. He bared his teeth and indulged his need to ride as though he had naught on his mind save his purpose. Nothing was further from the truth, of course, but life had a nasty way of being that way. Still, it was only a fool who didn't manage to grasp the moments of pleasure he might when they were in reach. Even if the reason he was riding south wasn't the best. Rolfe didn't dwell on the fact that his father had wanted to send his sister a letter, one delivered from Rolfe's hand. His father was dying. He'd been lingering in the grip of an illness for the past 2 years, but had always maintained the image of strength. To have it drained away a little at a time was worse than death. Now Rolfe had his sire's last words tucked into the front of his doublet. It was more than a farewell to a sibling, though. As his sire weakened, Rolfe had stepped up to shoulder the weight of the lairdship. Rolfe understood his father was making sure the Leslie were ready for the possible shift in power. An alliance had been struck when his Aunt Una wed into the Leslie clan, an agreement to back one another up. Rolfe was already confident in his claim on the Munro lairdship. It wasn't an overinflated ego supporting that belief either. No, he'd been earning his place while keeping his private feelings hidden. The letter was a gift, the last one his father might be able to grant Rolfe in this lifetime. It was an opportunity to ride free one last time, a chance to escape the burden of leadership and expectation. Rolfe had no intention of wasting it. Leslie Land. Una received him in her private chambers. As her nephew, it wasn't precisely improper. Rolfe still felt a tingle on his nape as he climbed the stairs up to the tower-top room where his aunt was. Double doors awaited him at the top of the stairs. As befitting the lady of the keep, Una had the entire floor. When the doors were opened, a middle-aged woman stood there. She lowered herself before sidestepping neatly out of the way. "Rolfe." Una held her hands out to him. There was an archway in the middle of the room which would lead to his aunt's bedchamber. Heavy curtains were closed over it to provide respectability to the moment of having Rolfe come behind the doors of what was normally the domain of the females only. The look on Una's face sent another tingle down his back. Her eyes were overly bright, and her teeth set into her lower lip as she tried to maintain a hold on her emotions. You're a man fully grown," his aunt proclaimed with joy. Her personal attendants had joined her, 4 middle-aged women. All of the matrons were women of the Leslie clan. Una's marriage contract had been sealed before she was delivered to her groom, and into the keeping of the Leslie at the tender age of 17. Cora had balked at such a fate. Aye, well, he had the chance to keep her and didn't he? Rolfe focused on his aunt. Through the years he'd meet her, the need to maintain a strong alliance meant Rolfe's father had ensured there were opportunities for them to interact. "Just look at ye," Una exclaimed with a bright smile. She'd clasped her hands together as if in prayer. "But it's good to see ye as well, aunt." Rolfe reached into his doublet and pulled out the letter. "My father has sent ye his greeting." He handed the letter over. Una had no real privacy. To have gifted the letter in secret would have been to place his aunt in danger of being accused of plotting against her husband. On the surface, it appeared that Laird Leslie and Una were amicable with one another, but only the pair of them truly knew what went on behind closed doors. More than one noble couple put on a united front when the truth was they loathed each other. It was a harsh fact of many unions made for the benefit of the clan.